Tim's Ford State Park. There's not a ton to do in the area from what we've seen so far, although we just got in.
You do need extension for electricity and for water, probably about 10 to 15 feet. Just walking across the bridge right now and just enjoying.
Yeah, we decided we'd just go for a little hike.
Sometimes the little one doesn't want to cross the bridge.
We don't usually sit out by the fire because then you smell like smoke, but it's cold today and I got my puffy jacket, so I'm ready for the cold.
Tito, say cheese. Cheese. All right, we're on day 2 of Tim Ford State Park. We are trying to figure out exactly what to do, but it sounds like the wife has some plans.
I don't have a whole lot of specific plans, but I'm going to finish dishes and then we're going to go hike around the lake. It's a paved path, so it should be really easy. The dog should be happy with it too. And then we're probably going to have to do some grocery shopping because we're completely out of produce. So we have to find a store that's nearby.
So sometimes you can just be hiking along and you just never know what you're going to actually see, especially with 2 obnoxious dogs where they like to whine and make lots of noises. These 2 actually were able to stay quiet enough for us to be about 10, 15 feet away from a doe. She just stopped, saw us, we saw her. She just stood still and then the dogs went nuts. And that's when she started running. So it was...
Savage, are you tired? We hiked down to the point. I think that's what it's called. There was a sign that said point and the arrow was pointing in the direction that we were going. So, but it's not really a point because it comes to a little, like a teardrop at the end. Ended up being, 4.6 miles from our campsite. Easy hike along the paved path. And we did come back with a tick. It's the end of April. Temperatures are warming up here. So make sure you have some spray on.
Keep spraying for ticks.
Yeah. And yesterday we found a tick on Tito. It bit him. Luckily it died.
So we were going back out for another hike out across the bridge towards the marina, and looks like they're having a controlled burn. Unfortunately, they didn't tell anyone that they're having a controlled burn, but I don't know if you can kind of see as far as the woods being a little bit on fire wise and all the smoke behind me. So it would be nice of them to actually having told us that
they're gonna go get it.
So there's a Kleenex box in the very back that is the box kind. So
the small one that fits in our...
I got it.
Thanks, honey.
All right. I was driving along, just a tree came out of nowhere, just smashed right into it. We're gonna have to get the tow truck, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this thing out of here. It's an antique. It's an older car. It may not make it out. So we'll see what I can do.
You can see what he did to the wheels.
Can I still turn the wheel? Is that better?
Oh. It's trying to turn.
Oh, look at that.
Except it seems like the tree is growing around the vehicle. And then, I'm not sure how we got down here in the first place.
I was gonna pop the hood, but I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah, probably shouldn't mess with it. The hood's barely attached.
It's got 40,000 miles on it. 40,935 miles.
It's a max of 6 people, so 2 adults, 2 dogs. We've almost reached the max. Come on. Dogs aren't a big fan of stuff that moves underneath them.
Tito's definitely more likely to keep going if Mom is halfway into the bridge, but Mom is behind him, then he's not going anywhere.
So we did the Lost Creek Overlook Trail. It was actually a recommendation from one of the rangers. And when you go up to the visitor center, that's where it starts. And the sign says 1.3 miles. But when you actually go all the way back, we got about 1.5 miles, but that's one way. This trail, you have to turn around and go back. So be prepared. It's going to be about a 3-mile trek to do this trail. It does follow the lake most of the time, but once you get to the end of it, it's actually a really pretty view. There's some benches, which we're sitting on right now. So definitely recommend trying to get to the end. And at the very beginning, that's when you're going to see the car. So when you get to your first suspension bridge, go just a little bit further before you cross that bridge, and that's when you'll see the car.
Yeah, so the antique car, the story behind that is supposedly it was brand new. They 2 kids were playing in it and accidentally hit it into gear, and then the car went down a hill and crashed into a tree. This was before the state owned the property. Looking at the mileage though, it says around a little over 40,000 miles. So I don't know if I trust that story behind it, but either way, I guess they, at the time, they didn't have enough capabilities of being able to tow it out because it's on a hill, tow it out and remove it. So they just left it, and the state took it over, and now you have a rust bucket.
But it's a cool one.
Yeah, absolutely.
After you complete the Lost Creek Overlook Trail, when you get to the very end of it, you're going to see this sign, and you can go either left or right. It's a loop. And the mile marker on this one is correct. It is 1.2 miles for the entire loop. But then it gets you back to the same, I guess back to the starting point. And then you have to take the 1.5 miles back on the Lost Creek Overlook Trail, which is just across the way.
And, and we're off.
She's way out there, doing her thing. So we decided to take the Tim Ford's trail back. It's a paved trail. So what we do sometimes, Ryan picked up a rock. I have a rock as well. My rock's a little small, but when it's mostly flat ground, this is when it's easier to get some extra workout in. So he does curls. After our 4-mile hike, we decided we had to learn the story of Polly the Possum. So we did the Storybook Trail, found out it's about a 1/4 mile one way. You get to read the whole book, find out what happens to Polly, if she can find a place to stay, and then you turn around and walk a 1/4 mile back. So completely doable for kids. 1/2 mile, paved trail.